Welcome to episode 1 of the Sports Geek podcast. We'll talk to James Royer from the Tampa Bay Lightning, talk about fan feedback on social pages, and you'll learn how to build an infographic in only 5 minutes. G'day and welcome to the Sports Geek podcast. My name is Sean Callanan and this is the very first proper, I'm going to explain what proper means in a moment, Sports Geek podcast. And what do I mean by proper? Well, previously, and thank you for people who have previously listened to my radio spots, which I've been putting up, and you've been able to subscribe on iTunes under Sports Geek Radio. I've been tinkering with the idea and of diving into podcasting, and I've got a few shout outs or I guess thank yous and inspirations behind it. And they pretty much start with I've been listening to podcasts more and more. And so, to begin to say thanks to guys like Bill Simmons, who pretty much has brought podcasting to ESPN and the sports space in a large way with his work at Grantland. If you don't listen to the BS report with Bill Simmons, it's well worth listening to. Pick and choose the topics that you like. I'm not a big fan of listening to the gambling stuff, but I love his stuff on NBA and occasionally touching on pop culture. Another one from a basketball point of view. If you're an NBA fan, you should be listening to the Basketball Jones. Those guys do a terrific NBA podcast daily. It's a great companion, especially now we're in the NBA playoffs. From coming from my home town and my home country from Australia, Will Anderson is an Australian comedian who does a terrific podcast called TOFOP, or FOFOP as he's now renamed it. I was lucky enough to have Will Anderson at our Twitter Brekkie in December last year, and it was good to hear from him as a comedian and how he uses social as a business development tool. One of the big takeaways that I took from the Twitter Brekkie was him talking about his business model. He said he didn't care that he had 250,000 followers on Twitter. His goal was to get 50,000 of his followers to buy one $50 ticket every year. And so that's how he treats both his, effectively you want to call it content marketing, all the content he puts out on Twitter and Tumblr and his podcast. He does it all for free, but the main goal is to deepen that connection and tie with his fans. So when he does do a show, people will go and see it. So I went and saw his latest show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. My kids got me tickets for Christmas, and it was a great show. So if you do see Will_Anderson on Twitter and he is in your town, I highly recommend going, but definitely tune into his podcast. So what are the goals of this podcast? Well, they are to help digital and sports marketing professionals get access to best practice and the latest trends and what's happening and what other people are doing. Because I know, working with clients with Sports Geek is the guys working behind the scenes. The sports teams have so much content produced, have so little resources, they're very stretched, and they don't really have the time to step back, look at what other people are doing, and then also strategize on potentially what they want to do. There's a little bit of the content grind where they just keep punching out that content. So hopefully within half an hour, 40 minutes each week, we'll be able to give you a few takeaways that you can take back to your work, start implementing, and we'd love to hear how they've gone. I also love connecting the sports biz community. So hopefully via this podcast, you'll get to meet a few people that I've met over the journey, both that I've worked with Sports Geek, but also met on my travels doing things like Sports Geek Trip, which I recently came back from. And, please go to the site and check out sort of my findings and my report that I reported back to my clients for Sports Geek Trip Recap, where I caught up with, from a team point of view, the Golden State Warriors, the Oakland A's, the Portland Trailblazers and the LA Galaxy. And then because I'm the geek as well, I was also lucky enough to catch up with tech companies like Twitter, Pinterest, Tint, Listly, Chirpify, Ticketnet, and I think I've got everyone right there. But check out the link to the Sports Geek trip recap, or sportsgeekhq.com/SGT4, because it was the fourth trip. My first interview on the Sports Geek podcast is with James Royer from the Tampa Bay Lightning, who came on ABC Grandstand with Francis Leach, or at St. Frankly, if you are not following him on Twitter. We were lucky enough to talk to James about Bolts Social Central. So the Tampa Bay Lightning have recently done some renovations to their stadium, and we talked to James about how they made a few changes to their stadium to better activate and better engage their digital fans.
Francis Leach here on your Saturday morning on Grandstand Breakfast. We'd love to catch up with the digital sports geek, Sean Callanan, each Saturday to find out what's been happening in sport in the digital space. G'day, Sean.
G'day, Francis. How you doing?
I'm not too bad, mate. Interesting stuff that you brought to the table today from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, for those who don't know their American sport, what major competitions do they play in?
They are at NHL.
On the ice.
On the ice hockey down in Tampa.
Now, they've taken a different approach to their social media, and they've been really innovative, particularly solving a problem that they thought they'd sort of hit a roadblock with. Explain what was going on.
So, so they were pretty much in process of remodelling their stadium, and they had these 4 corner suites as part of the stadium that sort of looked in on the ice, and they, as part of the renovations, they remodeled them and sold effectively three of the corners to sponsors, and so the corners are all owned and operated effectively by the sponsors. But they had one corner left over, and they weren't quite sure what to do with it as far as sponsorship and things go. And what they decided to go is what they've called Bolts Social Central. And we've talked before about the big display boards, electronic display boards, and they've used it to show all things social. So it shows their Instagram feeds, their Twitter feeds. It's getting fans checking in. So it's real, a digital activation, really getting the fans to rally around all the things they're doing online.
Well, James Royer is with us. He's the Director of Digital Media at the Tampa Bay Lions, on the line from the United States. Hello, James. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Francis, and thanks, Sean, for having me.
So how hard was it to do this, to actually get this wall up and operating?
Well, I think you have a number of different factors I'll play in place when you do something like this. One is the technology within the building, technology within your internal TV network and how those TVs are fed, and then obviously the Wi-Fi capability too. So it was a challenge to get it up. I know a lot of teams have called me up and said, "How do you guys pull this off?" We were trying to do the same thing, and it was a bit of a challenge. And fortunately, we have great relationships with some local partners who get social media, and they jumped in and took on the project and championed it through.
So James, how from a you're running all the social and digital channels for both the Tampa Bay Lightning and also the stadium, so that relationship works really well. How have you used the board to, rather than the visual spectacle of the fans being able to go by and tag their Instagram shots, how have you actually used the board to get fans engaged both in the stadium and probably more importantly the ones watching at home and getting a little bit jealous that they're not there?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that in the sports world, we saw a lot of stats coming through in social media that one of the most, frequent places that people take photos and share them is from sporting events. It's usually in the facility. So that's what we're trying to capture here with a lot of the photos coming through. And we wanted to organize it in some way, shape, or form too, so we could see those. We also saw that adoption of hashtags, even within Instagram, has been kind of slow to go on. But now that I'm seeing results that reports saying now that photos on Instagram that do have hashtags are performing much better from an engagement standpoint. So we're trying to capture some of those elements of it. And obviously, it gets people excited when we have activations inside the building where we give away something simple, or we ask people to go on photo hunts for us. Go to a sponsor location and take a picture in this area and share it. And it's been great from that standpoint because they've been able to, get some more partners are happy about seeing their own, logos in place. But obviously what we're trying to do, too, is create that conversation in the building that people who are here, so that it is reaching out to the networks, and people are saying, oh my gosh, a lot of things are going on at the Tampa Bay Times Forum, and we got to be there for a game, or we got to be there for a concert event. So we have been able to create another version of this for our Arena Football League team as well. So we use the same technology and the same thing. It's all keeping their channels, and we're going to run it for some concerts and events as well. So it's been able to utilize those different platforms and really make this a better experience for the fans.
James, how do you curate it? Because you can't just allow people to throw anything up there. That could be a rather hair-raising experience. So is there somebody whose job it is just to be an on-the-go editor to see what's coming in and pick and choose what goes up on your Bolts Social Central?
That is correct. We have to put it basically in a queue that we will review the photos. We don't want the wrong things going up, and we know that kind of things happen. But and I think even on the Twitter side, the Twitter side is a little more real time. Fans do get upset, and especially when teams not performing the way that they want to perform. And it is always a challenge to see what kind of things they put up there. But fortunately with Twitter, it only displays 4 or 5 tweets at a time, which is very strategic for that purpose. That if something's going to be put up there, it's going to be refreshed out of there pretty quickly. So we weren't too concerned about the Twitter aspect of things. We had, as a part of the discussions, we'd even talked about putting up their Twitter profile images on there, and we said, no, I think that's probably the bigger concern, is we could see some problems with that. So we said just put the tweets, the text of the tweets, and the usernames as opposed to anything else.
And so, in your discussions with other teams, a lot of them will say, well, we want to put this up, but we don't have the funds, and then they start looking for a sponsor to do it. Now, in your case, you've invested in this corner of the stadium as effectively a fan engagement play. But I'm sure now that you've done it and you've made that investment, I'm sure now you're having sponsors saying, well, we want to be part of that. We want our brand integrated with the wall, like you've done with sponsor integrations. Is it a bit of a, put in the investment and both the fans and the sponsors will come? Is that sort of the goal over the next 12 months?
Definitely. We definitely want to activate this area with a sponsor who gets social. A lot of sponsors will come to us and say, hey, we want to be part of this social media thing. And sometimes they know what that means, sometimes they don't. And I think what we're trying to do is educate them on the best practices and usages so we can be a good corporate partner for them.
James Royer is with us, Director of Digital Media at Tampa Bay Lions, with Sean Callanan.
The Lightning?
Lions.
You've been talking rugby this morning.
Yes, I have too. I've got lines on the brain. From the United States, with Sean Callanan, our digital sports analyst here on Grandstand Breakfast. James, in terms of the Wi-Fi aspect, this is a frustrating aspect for all Australian sports fans, because we can go to big events and we're encouraged to get involved, and then we sort of log onto our smartphones or whatever we're using, and it's just like you hit the brick wall. You cannot post anything. How is it that you can get 20,000 people in that space and make sure that everything can flow through nicely?
Well, Francis, I make the same mistake sometimes. I actually say Lions because I actually worked for the Detroit Lions about 10 years ago, so I still make that mistake too, so don't worry about that. In regards to the Wi-Fi, we were very fortunate. One is our ownership really gets what we're doing here, and they've made the investment to invest in Wi-Fi. And it just so happened that we held the Republican National Convention as part of our presidential elections last year in the U.S. Last August in September. And so that accelerated that process to getting Wi-Fi in the building. We had a local cable company who's our partner on that. Bright House is the name of the company. They came in and helped us out with that. But obviously it needed to be up in place. We also were very fortunate to have all the cell phone companies, because of that event coming into play, say, hey, we got to improve our cell signal in that building. So even if sometimes the Wi-Fi is not working, we have ramped up the cell service in the building enough that they can get through it on their devices and through cellular means as well.
Yeah, that's been a constant topic of the time that I've been here with in Francis, and one that's a big discussion at the SEEK conference. We're going to be talking again in Kansas City, but it is something that the infrastructure needs to be there, because then marketers like yourself and and trying to do sponsorship activations, you need to have that infrastructure in place. Otherwise, I was lucky enough to go to a few stadiums, and if you don't have that infrastructure, and if you take the, San Francisco Giants on one side of the bay and the Oakland A's on the other side of the bay, the
first world, third world?
It is exactly like that. AT&T Park is the most Instagram ballpark in the world, and it's all because they've got the infrastructure there. So that definitely helps, down the track, even if you're selling sponsorship signage and anything you're doing, and, game day activations, but getting people through the gate, just being able to have that ability to brag. And I think the good thing about this, the Bolt Social Central, is that it trains the fans, even just by them walking past. Oh, now I know the hashtag. Oh, I better take my shot because it's going to end up on the board. And the more fans you do, the more you can develop your, what we call digital cheer squad, get them out there and promoting it. It makes James' job a lot easier because they're out there pushing the Tampa Bay message.
Well, I love the Bolts Social Central wall. It's a great idea. James, how's the season gone so far?
Well, we actually wrapped up our hockey season last week. We didn't make the playoffs this year. We had a couple injury challenges and some changeover in the year, but we're looking forward to being in the playoffs next year and getting ready for that. So, but I think you nailed it. I think you said something there that really resonated with me in training our fans. And one of the things we've done, we've increased our check-ins to our building on an average of 35% a night, and that's on Foursquare and on Facebook. One of the things we've been doing is we give away something simple like on St. Patrick's Day we gave away a simple pin that basically said "Kiss me, I'm a Bolts man," or on Valentine's Day we gave away cupcakes, and we gave those away to people who checked into the building. They sourced that check-in. We gave them a cupcake, and it was great to see that just grow tremendously, and that has a lot of value to us as an arena from a lot of purposes. But I think the other thing was really fun to watch was when we were interacting with these fans coming up and doing this. Some people would say, "Hey, what is this?" And we say, "Do you have a smartphone?" And they go, "Yeah." "Do you have Facebook?" "Yeah." And they pull it out. That's the first time they've ever checked into a place, but they were willing to do that because they enjoyed the takeaway from that.
It's the power of cupcakes. It's the power of cupcakes, James.
Good on you, James.
It's funny you say that because I would see people with opposing team jerseys. Now, Tampa, we're in a location in the U.S. where it's a vacation destination. It's warm weather climate almost year round, and you get people from the northern cities or even Canadian cities who circle Tampa Bay when their favorite team is playing Tampa Bay, and they plan their vacations around it. So they come down here, and so we see a lot of opposing fans, wearing their jerseys or their sweaters, and I had some people come up to me from Buffalo, and they wanted a cupcake, and I said, "I'm not going to give this to you until you give me a Go Bolts." And they were happy to tweet Go Bolts out for me. So, so it tells you how quickly people will sell their souls or sell their sports loyalties for cupcakes.
Good on you, James. Great to talk to you.
Great talk to you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for James Royer, at James Royer from the Tampa Bay Lightning, for his discussion on Bolt Social Central. I'll add some notes and some links in the show notes if you want to check out Bolt Social Central. I guess the main takeaway for me from that interview is ABT, always be training. And the insight there on both telling the fans what the hashtag is and informing them that you want them to check into your stadium becomes, bigger all the time. And the more you can train your fans to be doing the actions you want, the better results you can have later on when you want to do those sponsor activations. The other one for mine, it's a little bit Kevin Costner-like, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And that's what we're seeing a lot with a lot of digital innovation. It's a matter of building it, proving it, then selling it. A lot of sponsors aren't really ready to take that leap on new ideas. But if you can, do these micro tests, and not that the Bolt Social Central is a micro test fitting out a corner of the stadium, but if you can put in the investment to test these theories and do these activations, then you'll have the proof there that you can take back to sponsors, and then they want to be involved because they'll see the chatter online. this week on just moving across to halftime, catching up with Daniel Harford on Wednesdays this week. It was a bit of a trigger from last week's show where I got some choice SMSs on the SMS machine, as happens when I'm on Talkback Radio. And it got me thinking about some of the discussions that I've had with teams around handling fan feedback on social chat channels and some of the problems that you sometimes find yourself in when you've got some passionate fans that just are a little bit upset. And we discussed on some of the scenarios on how you can handle that from a Facebook, Twitter, and from all social platforms point of view. This is myself with Daniel Harford on halftime on 1116 SEN.
Sean Carolan, our sports digital media guru for SportsGeekHQ.com.
Hello, birthday boy.
G'day, Half. How you doing?
Happy birthday, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Great to have you in on your birthday. Nice of you to do that. I'll mention in the bulletin a little bit later on when we get to the quiz.
No worries. Me and Enrique Iglesias.
Enrique.
Today,
Yes.
discussing fan feedback. And the thing is that social media offers all these new channels for fans to express their opinion about teams and effectively give them that public forum. We've talked about it before, Seth Godin's quote of that describes sports fans or fans in general, but I think it describes sports fans perfectly as positive deviants. It's just what a sports fan is. They love their team. There's so much passion pouring out of them. And most of the time it is positive, as much as they're in the stands, cheering their team on. But occasionally, emotions get the better of us. Your team might not be doing exactly, doing as well as you would have liked. And sometimes you would go to social media to vent. And that might be on the team's Facebook page, complaining about player XYZ or complaining about a certain play. It might be a game like yesterday's game with the Golden State Warriors. They had an awesome game. Steph Curry's going off and then they lose that lead at the end. Now, I'm sure, 98% of the Warrior nation was, ecstatic about the effort and the what they put in, but there will be a certain percentage of them who will be hanging the coach for not drawing up the play right and leaving Ginobili wide open, or why there wasn't a switch. So there will always be those kind of fans. So as someone who's managing those pages, you've got to take on board the situation that the fans are facing. So if they're, you've got to have a bit of empathy for, feel just as hurt as they do. If it is a close loss, or worse, if it's an absolute belting, and you're going through, a long losing streak, as we did, sort of helping out the Sydney Thunder, haven't won a game since 2011. Didn't win one last year. So obviously the fans are going to get angry. In this case, it was Chris Gale. Why doesn't he do better? Now we've had to sometimes tell the players, any player that's reading the Facebook comments on a Facebook page really just shouldn't, because it sometimes is the worst and the best of humanity on those pages. So
humanity.
So the main thing is from a club point of view is when to block. Like when to say enough's
like
enough.
The SMS machine.
It is a bit like the SMS machine. You get a few comments there and you say, no, we don't want to read that one out, or we don't want to even read that one at all.
Ever.
And so, it comes down to, normally our rules are, if you're abusive and threatening and swearing, one, you're protecting the other people on the page. And a lot of those people on the page will be kids. There's a lot of kids on Facebook and Twitter, so you want to protect them. So especially on Facebook, it's very visible if someone is having a go on a thread. Facebook's is doing a better job in capturing all of those words, and just automatically hiding them through a filter. But if it's a constant, negative Nelly kind of abuse, and they just don't want to see another point of view, then put the block and say, hasta la vista. But then there's the case of you just might have got them at the wrong time. Yeah. They might have just been overly emotional and had 6 to 12 too many beers and decided to just have a big rant on the Facebook page. And so that's probably where you want to get in that red card type of system where you say, yep, you've got a ban for 3 months. We've got our club policy here. Here's an email. If you've been blocked, please email us. and think about why you might have been blocked, because we would have blocked you for one of these things, and you would have done one of these things. Sit in the corner, Johnny, have a think about it, and then email us back with an apology. Show some contrition, and normally, after a couple of months, yes, you're back in, and you'll follow the rules that we've laid out there. So.
It's like dealing with children, isn't it?
It is a bit like dealing with children.
You reprimand them, you discipline them, they come better kids.
But you want to make sure that you're the main thing is protecting your brand. You don't want people spreading, rumours on your pages and things like that. The other thing is also to not get too much emotionally invested if you're the one reading it all.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of people going, oh, it's so draining reading all these comments, and you start taking them on board yourself, or you start wanting to protect the players. Now, again, we've sorted the players out. They're not reading it. They get said far worse things in the media. People like yourself or KB and the papers and those kind of things having a crack. So, you don't have to protect the players there. Most of them are big boys. But just sort of step away sometimes. If it's getting too much, step away. Come back in half an hour. Normally everyone does simmer down, but just having that process in place to be able to say, no, we don't like that kind of behaviour, go have a spell and then come back.
That's great advice. SportsGeekHQ.com for more of that sort of stuff from the birthday boy, Sean Callanan. Adam, you're not blocked because you've been giving it the KB Read the Marking Contest. You must have been doing it in a polite fashion, and that's okay. Thank you, pal. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much, mate.
SportsGeekHQ.com for Sean.
Thank you, Half, there for the birthday wishes. Yes, I did go into the radio on my birthday, and thank you for everyone who did post a comment or flick me a message or a text or write on my Facebook wall to say happy birthday. My cloud score thanks you very much. But no, genuinely, thank you very much for the comments. Just a bit of a wrap from that discussion with Half. I will send you a link to the Seth Godin post on Positive Deviance. It is a perfect description for the sports fan. Some of the takeaways, if you have a player that's reading your Facebook page and reading the comments, definitely counsel them not to do that. It is not the best place for players to do it. Definitely have a policy in place, a house rules. This is how we want you to behave. But also know that no fan will read it. But you've got to have that in place. It could be as simple as a one-line policy that says, please don't be a dickhead. But it should be in place so you can refer your fans to it, and also you can refer your fans to appeal any blocking or suspension that they might get for their activity. But again, the main thing is you're protecting your brand, and don't take any of the comments to heart. I mean, we've all read comments on Facebook pages or on Twitter that have said, where fans have said, the team shouldn't be Facebooking so much, they should be training more. And the fans sometimes cannot disassociate the performance on the field with the digital team. You just have to sort of let that one go through to the keeper, if I use an Australian expression, or let that ball go wide of the strike zone if I change it for the US market. So don't take those to heart. But please, in the comments, let us know, some of the issues that you have faced from a fan point of view and fan feedback. I'd love to get some case studies and maybe use them in future podcasts. So this pretty much wraps it up. Hopefully this isn't too long, trying to get it just right, long enough for a jog, maybe a commute. Be doing this once a week. What I want to do is just to finish up is give you one tool tip, something that we've found recently that's working really well. And that one is, and I got this one from Melanie Duncan at Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, and it's called Infogram. Infographics are obviously the new big thing. Everyone loves doing them. There's a few teams doing them. I've got actually Jamie and Curtis are actually working on a blog post to sort of profile some of the content that is getting produced by pro teams in the infographic space. I know the Melbourne Storm are doing a great job and getting some great results with their infographics each week. Infogram, so it's infogr.am, is a website that helps you build an infogram. So if you go to Infogram/SportsGeek, and again, I'll put the link in the show notes, or if you go to SportsGeek HQ sportsgeek.com/infogram, it'll actually send you to our infogram page. But you can see it can create an infogram. It'll be clickable. It's embeddable in the site. Really cool way to do it. Again, if you jump on, use infogram, please. Send me through your links. I'd love to see some examples of what people are producing. And again, we'll tack them onto the show notes for some examples. So that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening. If you don't get our Sports Geek newsletter, please sign up. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/sign up to sign up. We hopefully will be sending one out very shortly. We try to send it out monthly. Very busy, but we try to adhere to that. Other than that, I will see you on the internet at Sean Callanan or at Sports Geek on Twitter, and you should know all of our channels. Facebook.com/sportsgeek for Facebook. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers. Thank you. You've been listening to the Sports Geek podcast. You can find the show notes at sportsgeekhq.com/1. And please, if you can, leave a message either in the post below or we'd love to see a comment or a rating on our iTunes page. Thanks again, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers.